working with emotion. And I actually had to walk out of the room. So it was just too much for me to handle.
So do you blame Dr. Murray for your brother's death?
Yes, I do. He is the one that was administering the drug, as from what I do know. So.
One person I believe in Hollywood who people conspired to actually take down because he had too much power, and I believe that person was Michael Jackson. The reason I believe that is because you can look into the story. Paul McCartney and Michael used to be real cool. Paul was telling Michael, like, yo, you got to get your business together. You got to get your business right. Michael ended up getting so big that he bought the Beatles publishing. The Beatles publishing was worth so much that literally Sony gave Michael Jackson half of their publishing company just to own the Beatles catalog. Imagine how powerful a black man is when he owns a majority of the music industry's publishing. In some cases, was even giving publishing back to some of the artists. He gave Little Richard his publishing back. I don't know how many people he did that to, but he gave Little Richard his publishing back. I believe that Michael Jackson had too much power in the music industry, had too much control over the most valuable asset in music, which is people's publishing, and I believe they had to take him out because of it.
Janet Jackson just shook the music world with remarks that have fans convinced she was hinting at the hidden battles her brother Michael faced at the height of his career, suggesting he was surrounded by powerful industry forces that didn't always want to see him win. Supporters online believe this could explain the strange backroom deals, sudden shifts in power, and the deep isolation Michael experienced, which many feel played a role in the tragic chain of events leading to his death in 2009. While the official report says he passed from a fatal dose of propofol given by his doctor, countless fans still point to contradictions and suspicious details that fuel theories to this day. What makes Janet's words even more explosive is the reminder that Michael wasn't only the king of pop, but also a shrewd businessman who owned the legendary Sony ATV publishing catalog worth hundreds of millions, giving him unmatched leverage in the industry. That kind of power didn't just make him unstoppable on stage, it also made him a target. And producer Rodney Jerkins even revealed that Michael once admitted living in constant fear because of the pressure and threats tied to those assets. A confession that now feels chilling in light of Janet's latest comments.
You know, we always hear the conspiracy theories, like, you know, they be like, oh, Bill Cosby was trying to buy NBC. Michael's the only person I believe they really tried to railroad like that because of what he did with the publishing in the music industry.
He talked about it all the time. He talked about it all the time. One thing I will say is that in the studio, he would always talk about how he lived in a certain fear. And I used to always try to reel him in a direction like, yo, you only supposed to fear God. Man shouldn't have you feeling like that. No man should have you living in that space. But he lived in that space a lot because he felt like he had something that was so valuable, which he did. He had something so valuable that people wanted.
He owned like half of Sony ATV's publishing, right?
Yeah, I think what people have confused, I'm glad you said that way, because I think people have confused the narrative. People for so long have said, Michael owned the Beatles catalog.
I heard that.
No, Michael owned Sony ATV.
That's right.
Which is Babyface, Mariah, the Beatles.
Beyonce.
Probably some of my catalog was in there.
Many fans now say Michael wasn't paranoid. He saw that everyone around him wanted a piece of what he owned. And according to Janet, his valuable publishing catalog made him a clear target. Producers who knew him, like Rodney Jerkins, aka Darkchild, have reportedly said they never believed the accusations against Michael and felt the scandals didn't add up, suggesting those charges looked less like truth and more like a weapon used to undermine his power. While some online voices go further and claim the media's obsession with painting Michael as a predator came from higher-level industry forces, it's important to stress these are unverified theories and interpretations rather than proven facts. Still, when combined with Janet's latest remarks and insiders' denials, they've reignited debate about whether Michael's business clout played a role in the controversies that swirled around him.
They want it back.
You think they threw all those cases at Michael because they wanted it back?
I think it could have had something to do with it. I'm not going to say exactly that, but it could have had something to do with it. But I believe none of it because I was around Mike all the time and I knew the kind of person he was. So I'm like, they really trying to kill his character.
Yeah, I don't believe
And
it.
he would say it, like, he'd be like, they just can't stand that I'm the greatest. He would literally say that.
Producer Rodney Jerkins, better known as Darkchild, has always stood firmly by Michael Jackson, explaining that his defense wasn't just about loyalty, but about what he personally witnessed, a man surrounded by people who loved and trusted him. Yet, according to insiders and fan discussions, things took an unusual turn around the early 2000s when Michael collaborated with Jay-Z at a Summer Jam performance in 2001, with some even claiming that this marked the moment new influences began entering his circle. Others go further back, suggesting whispers of connections dating as far as 1993, tied to LaToya Jackson's ex-husband Jack Gordon, which coincided with LaToya's controversial statements against Michael, claims she later retracted, saying she had been pressured and manipulated. Online, this fueled speculation that these weren't isolated dramas but part of a larger industry strategy, with some even pointing fingers at major moguls like Jay-Z and Diddy, though none of these claims have ever been proven. The theories often highlight how artists like Michael and Prince consistently faced damaging allegations, while others appeared untouchable, celebrated as powerful figures in music who supposedly wanted to uplift their peers. Critics like Jaguar Wright have even suggested darker motives, saying the industry worked in ways that protected some while tearing down others. Still, it's crucial to remember that much of this remains speculation and rumor, built on whispers, retractions, and disputed accounts. But Janet's recent comments have revived these discussions, leaving fans to wonder whether Michael's fall from grace was really about personal mistakes or the result of much larger forces at play.
They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
Now let me say this.
Sony, Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very, very, very devilish.
Michael Jackson famously went public with strong criticism of then Sony Records CEO Tommy Mottola, accusing him of unfair treatment toward black artists and calling out what he described as unethical behavior, a move that shocked the industry and fueled years of debate. Fans often connect Michael's words to larger patterns in music, comparing his claims of intimidation to later stories about artists like Jaguar Wright, who said she felt abandoned by Jay-Z, or the rumors that Diddy allegedly used against Biggie and others, though none of these stories were ever confirmed. What is clear is that Michael openly accused Sony of pressuring him, especially when he wanted out of his contract, despite owning 50% of the Sony ATV publishing catalog, a position that gave him enormous leverage. According to insiders and online discussions, this was the point where tensions escalated, and theories began circulating that powerful figures may have moved behind the scenes to control the narrative around him. While these interpretations remain unverified, Janet Jackson's recent comments have reignited fan speculation that Michael's fight with the label and his refusal to stay silent about industry practices made him a target at the height of his career.
So I'm leaving Sony a free agent, owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know.
Over the years, Janet Jackson's comments and various insider accounts have reignited speculation that Michael may have been deliberately isolated in the final chapter of his life, with fans pointing to a series of unsettling events that seem too coincidental to ignore. Rumors trace back to LaToya Jackson's troubled marriage to Jack Gordon, where she later revealed she had been manipulated, pressured into public statements against her own brother, and even forced to repeat claims she later retracted, painting a picture of control and abuse rather than genuine testimony. Around this same period, Michael's inner circle reportedly began to change, with new figures appearing suddenly in his camp, including security personnel that fans online often connect to other powerful industry names, and raising questions about why someone with little prior history around him was placed so close just months before his passing. Supporters note how Janet herself admitted she couldn't see her brother as often as she wanted in those weeks, describing how Michael was consumed with work while also being surrounded by people who didn't allow much family access. And when tragedy struck in June 2009, the only people present in the room were his doctor, Conrad Murray, and that same security aide, something that still fuels suspicion today. While some observers link this to bigger industry power struggles, connecting dots between Michael's publishing catalog, Diddy's controversies, and Jay-Z's rise. It's essential to remember that these theories remain unverified and largely based on whispers, coincidences, and fan interpretation. Still, as more lawsuits and claims surface around major industry figures in recent years, each revelation keeps these older conversations alive, making many wonder if Michael's tragic fate was simply personal misfortune or the outcome of forces much larger working quietly behind the scenes.
Last time I saw Mike was maybe a month before. I was giving my parents a surprise party.
And
So
he
we were
came for
all
that.
there. We were all there.
The last time you saw Michael was around your birthday.
2 days before my birthday.
One detail that still troubles fans is how disconnected Michael's family seemed to be during his final hours, with Janet later saying she wasn't even told how serious the situation had become until it was too late, and her brother had already passed. For many, the lack of communication, the strict isolation around him, and the timing of events raise haunting questions about who was really shaping the narrative in those last moments. While the official record remains clear about the medical cause of his death, history shows that Michael's final days were marked by secrecy, pressure, and decisions that continue to spark debate, leaving supporters to wonder whether his story was ever fully in his own hands.
History. Where were you when you heard?
I was at home in New York. I was at my house in New York. You know, another day, another morning. And I get a call. Headed to the hospital.
And you headed to the airport?
Not at that very moment. I didn't know the severity of it. No one knew. I can't remember exactly who I wound up calling back to see how things were going, and that's when they told me he had passed.
He had passed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Janet Jackson has revealed heartbreaking details about her brother's final years, explaining that people who forced themselves into Michael's circle allegedly made him reliant on prescription pills, and whenever the family tried to intervene, Conrad Murray reportedly dismissed their concerns and insisted he alone knew what was best. Janet said Michael understood his family's love but felt powerless, as constant reassurances convinced him nothing was wrong, slowly creating a state of denial that left him unable to recognize the danger. She admitted it was so painful to witness that she sometimes had to leave the room, later making it clear she believed Murray's direct actions led to Michael's death. But her words also hinted at something much bigger, suggesting that the same people who controlled his medications also dictated his public appearances and even the way he looked, which may explain why his physical changes became so drastic. Fans online have speculated that Michael was pushed through humiliation and manipulation, kept dependent on substances, isolated from his family, and stripped of control over his own finances. While Janet placed the blame squarely on Murray, LaToya Jackson went even further, suggesting Murray was only a fall guy in what she believed was a larger scheme designed to break Michael down. These claims remain unverified, but the idea that his final years may have been shaped by a calculated plan, rather than personal struggles alone, has left fans shaken, with many convinced that Michael was trapped in a web of manipulation, surrounded by people who silenced him until the very end.
Do you still think that?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why are you so sure?
I would never, ever think differently. Because first of all, Michael told me that they were going to murder him. He was afraid. He was afraid for his life. Who was going to murder him? The people that were involved in his life, the people that were controlling him. This book, Starting Over, is about my life. And it's about Michael's life. It's the parallel between the two of our lives. We share that same life where people come into your life, wiggle their way in, control you, manipulate, control your funds, your finances, everything that you have, and you must do what they tell you to do. And that's what Michael was going through. And he knew that everything that was happening to him was not kosher, it wasn't right, and it disturbed him greatly.
Janet Jackson's recent remarks have reignited a storm of theories about Michael's final years, with fans and some insiders suggesting he was increasingly isolated, medicated, and cut off from family while powerful industry interests circled his valuable Sony ATV catalog. Claims that, if true, would paint a chilling picture of manipulation rather than mere misfortune. According to various accounts and reawakened rumors, LaToya's troubled marriage to Jack Gordon and her later retracted accusations, the sudden appearance of unfamiliar security personnel close to Michael, and reports that Conrad Murray insisted family concerns were unnecessary, all feed a narrative in which Michael felt powerless and monitored, Some even point out timing that looks suspicious on paper, such as a major distribution deal announced by Rock Nation shortly after Michael's death, which online sleuths flag as potentially significant. Family voices, including LaToya and reportedly Paris, have expressed that something didn't add up, describing cut phones, darkness, and alarming behavior in Michael's last days. And while Janet has blamed Murray publicly for administering the fatal dose, others have suggested he may have been a fall guy in a larger scheme orchestrated by unnamed network players. All of this remains unverified and rooted in rumor, memory and interpretation rather than proven fact. But with renewed legal drama and new revelations around some industry figures, these questions keep resurfacing and demanding answers. So what do you think? Setup, tragic mismanagement, or coincidence? Drop your thoughts below, like and subscribe. Because as family members speak out again, many believe we may be closer to uncovering more of the truth.